Hello, this is Mr. Dickinson. This is theory lesson number 3, and it is on stems and bar lines. Let's get started. Okay, stems. As your paper will say, stems are used to help determine what rhythmic value a note will have. By adding a stem to an open note head, you change the value of the note from a whole note to a half. So these notes that we've been drawing so far, which are just an oval by themselves, are called a whole note. In most of the music we write, those will get 4 counts, and you will know what that means more later. When you add a stem, here's the stem that we're adding to the note head, that turns it into what's called a half note. In most cases, a half note gets 2 beats. Okay? It is important to draw stems on the proper side of the note head and draw them in the proper direction. Notes that appear on or above the middle staff line have downward stems drawn on the left side of the note head. Notes that appear below the middle staff line have upward stems drawn on the right side of the note head, or more simply, down to the left, up to the right. And just repeat that over and over and over again. Down to the left, up to the right, down to the left, up to the right, until you have that memorized. Notice how, as it says, if the note head is on this middle line or above, the stems go down to the left. If it is below that middle line, they go up to the right. The reason for that is that if we did it the other way, if we made these stems go up, see how they're coming out of that measure? We want everything to go into the measure as much as possible. We want to fill up this staff. So therefore, middle line and up, down to the left. Below the middle line, up to the right. You have to draw them in the right place for it to be considered correct. So pay attention to this. This is like the entire lesson. It asks you to practice drawing stems by adding the proper stem to each note head. That's number 1. So that's just doing what we just talked about. Number 2, you're drawing more stems. Number 3, some of these are drawn incorrectly. I want you to circle the incorrect stems. I'll give you one for free. So this first one is down to the left, that's correct. Up to the right, that's correct. Down to the left, that's correct. But now we have down to the right, that's incorrect. So I would circle that one, and you continue to look, okay? Number 4, same thing, circle the incorrect stems. Number 5, some notes are missing stems, add them. And the same thing for number 6. What you do need to know is that when you have one note head in an entire measure, we'll talk about measures here in a minute, that doesn't get a stem. If you only have one note in an entire measure, that's called a whole note because it takes up the whole measure. Okay, so no stem for these final 2 notes here. Okay. Your other side of the paper is called measures and bar lines. Now, what you need to know is that the word measure and bar means the exact same thing. Typically, jazz and rock musicians will call these bars, classical musicians will call them measures. It's the same thing. They're interchangeable. I usually say measure, and then instead of saying measure line, I'll say bar line. So I kind of like this lingo here, but you can interchange them. It's totally fine. So music on the staff is divided using bar lines, which are lines going up and down, vertical lines. The space between 2 bar lines is called a measure or a bar. So here's a bar line, or a measure line, and then here's a measure, the space in between, or you can also call that a bar. The end of a piece of music is indicated by a final bar line. I typically call these a double bar line, and it is a thin line followed by a thick line. We need to start worrying about what our music looks like. So you do need to do a thin line, and then you would make a thicker line for the double bar line or the final bar line. Lots of terms in music have 2 terms, so you just got to get used to it. Okay, the assignment. Number 1, it says how many measures are there in this staff, and you just count them. That's easy. Part B, how many bar lines, including the final bar line. So you're just counting them again. I ask you to draw 2 half notes on C in the first and third measures. Remember, a half note is a open note head with a stem. So I'll do one of these for you. So first of all, I need to make sure it's on C. So face in the space, F-A-C-E, there's C. And I'm drawing my note head. And then I need to make it a half note, so I'm adding a stem. Because I'm above the middle line, my stem's going down to the left. All right? Then I would do another one. You do that same thing on measure 3. So just practice doing that the right way. Letter C. We just did that. Letter D, draw 4 quarter notes on the note G in the second and fourth measures. We haven't talked about quarter and half notes yet. All you need to know is that a quarter note looks the same as a half note, but you fill in the note head. That is a quarter note. And then if I want to do 4, I space them evenly in this measure. I'm giving you the answers because I want you to practice drawing these and making them look good. So make sure those note heads are filled in. The stems are going the correct direction. And they ask you to circle the final bar line, which you should be able to do. Number 2 has more instructions. It wants you to draw a bass clef at the beginning of the staff above. Now, it's very important when you're drawing a bass clef, because not all of you did this in the last worksheet, that you start at the 4th line and bring it down, and that your dots surround the 4th line. Your dots aren't here or here or whatever. They're surrounding the 4th line, and that's because if you connected them, remember this can be called the F clef, and this note in bass clef is F. So they need to surround that 4th line. You need to start on the 4th line when you draw it. That is important to do correctly. B, divide it into 4 measures, final bar line at the end, so draw the final bar line the way I talked about. In each measure, draw 4 different quarter note pitches. So different pitches, that's high or low, so you can pick to put them anywhere you want, but make sure the stems are going the right way. Write the letter name of each pitch below your staff, so whatever you picked, write the letter names below. Draw a circle around the highest pitch you wrote and a square around the lowest pitch you wrote, and that's it. Remember for note names what your devices are, right? Like good boys deserve fudge always and all cows eat grass. All righty, that should be that.